Dorian Lockwood sat alone on the creaking swing, his eyes fixed on the delicate chaos unfolding beneath him. In the pale glow of early dawn, a solitary spider wove its intricate web along the underside of a rusted playground slide. Every silken thread shimmered with a quiet determination, as if the creature knew that a single flawless trap could secure its future for many nights to come. There was an eerie beauty in that moment, a silent testament to meticulous planning in the face of uncertainty. Dorian's mind raced as he watched the spider's methodical progress, its every movement deliberate and measured. The web, though fragile in appearance, held the promise of a lethal snare, a reminder that sometimes the most unassuming beings harbored the deadliest strategies. Without warning, a gust of wind tugged at the fragile strands, causing the web to tremble. For a heartbeat, time seemed to slow, and Dorian felt a shiver run down his spine. It was as if the morning itself conspired to reveal hidden truths, a subtle warning that nothing in life was as it seemed. The tension in the air was palpable, a quiet prelude to an unfolding drama that would soon blur the line between calculated intent and raw emotion. Dorian's eyes narrowed in that quiet, shadowed park, with nothing but the sound of distant city hums and the soft creak of the swing. He made a silent vow. Just as the spider planned its strike with ruthless precision, he too was honing a plan born of betrayal, honed by seething jealousy and destined to change everything. The web was complete, fragile yet formidable, and it spoke to him in whispers of revenge and inevitable reckoning. As the first light of day crept across the horizon, Dorian leaned back on the swing, his heart pounding in sync with its rhythmic sway. The spider, unaware of the parallel promise in the watching man's eyes, continued its work, a small, silent architect of fate. And in that moment, beneath the ghostly blush of early morning, a story of deception and cold vengeance was poised to take its first irrevocable step. Dorian's mind churned with memories as he recalled the early days with Marisol, fresh out of college at the University of Vermont. They'd met at a lively campus art show. He remembered her laugh, rich and unrestrained, and the confident way she carried herself. Marisol Deo, then a promising marketing intern with a razor-sharp wit, had captivated him instantly. They had bonded over their mutual love for vintage film and the thrill of competitive shooting at local ranges. One crisp autumn evening in Boston, when the city lights blurred into a sea of golden reflections on wet pavement, Dorian and Marisol sat together on the back steps of their modest brick townhouse. The air was cool and laced with the distant sound of traffic and occasional laughter from a nearby bar. Over a shared cup of steaming coffee, the conversation took an unexpectedly serious turn. "Dorian," Marisol had said, her tone gentle yet firm, "I sometimes feel like you're always second-guessing everything I do. It's like you see every move I make as a potential mistake." Dorian's jaw tightened. "I only speak up because I care, Marisol. I can't stand the thought of you getting hurt or worse, being taken advantage of." His voice, low and slightly trembling, betrayed the insecurity he tried so hard to hide. She sighed, brushing a stray lock of dark hair behind her ear. "I know you mean well, but sometimes it feels like you're holding me back, questioning every choice I make. I need you to trust me, to see that I'm not your enemy." In that moment, beneath the pale glow of a street lamp, and with Boston's chilly night air wrapping around them, Dorian felt the first tremors of jealousy, and an emotion he loathed yet couldn't fully banish. He'd always prided himself on his meticulous nature, much like the spider he'd observed earlier, but the thought of losing control over their shared future sent a pit deep into his stomach. Later, as they drove through the rain-soaked streets on their way home, Dorian's thoughts whirled uncontrollably. He recalled their heated debates over even the smallest things, how Marisol's choice of attire, or the way she laughed too freely in public, often stirred his suspicions. He couldn't help but feel that behind her dazzling smile lay secrets she chose to hide. The familiar hum of the car's engine and the rhythmic tapping of windshield wipers on rain-streaked glass only deepened his inner turmoil. "Marisol, do you ever wonder if we're missing something?" he ventured hesitantly, glancing at her through the rearview mirror. His eyes searched her face for any hint of regret or concealed truth. She met his gaze steadily. "What do you mean, Dorian? Missing something or someone?" Her voice was soft, yet edged with a challenge that made him squirm in his seat. He swallowed hard, his fingers tightening on the steering wheel. I just think that maybe we should talk more openly about our fears, our doubts. I hate when there's silence between us on the things that matter." Marisol offered a small, enigmatic smile. "I promise I'm here. But sometimes silence is just the space we need to remember who we are together." Yet even as she spoke, a flicker of something, an unspoken secret, passed over her eyes. That night, after they'd returned home, Dorian lay awake in the darkness, replaying every word and every glance. His heart pounded with a mix of love and dread, the seeds of jealousy already taking root. He resolved, with bitter clarity, to remain ever vigilant, a silent guardian against any threat, no matter how subtle. Deep inside, he wondered if his desire to protect them was turning into something more dangerous, something that would change their lives forever. And as the rain drummed steadily on the roof, Dorian's thoughts danced between cherished memories and the ominous possibilities the new day might reveal. At the downtown Boston office, Dorian was buried in spreadsheets when Gideon's insistent knock broke his concentration. "Dorian, you need to check this out," Gideon urged, sliding his chair close to Dorian's monitor. The live feed from a traffic camera at a bustling intersection came into focus on the screen. A pickup truck lay on its side after a recent collision. Dorian leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. There, amid the chaos, was a glint of distinctive blue and silver stripes, an image that sent a shiver down his spine. "Isn't that the same color as Marisol's car?" Gideon asked softly. Dorian's voice was a low murmur. "Let me see it again." He rewound the clip, scrutinizing every frame. His heart pounded as the familiar pattern emerged unmistakably. Later that day, at his desk, Dorian pulled up Marisol's recent credit card statements. His fingers trembled as he noticed an oddity. On several business trips, apart from a single parking fee at the airport, there were no personal expenses recorded. Typical transactions, meals, local taxis, even the smallest coffee purchases were glaringly absent. Instead, there was a consistent void that now painted a darker narrative than he had ever imagined. Back in his dimly lit study that evening, Dorian replayed memories of hushed conversations, and half-dismissed concerns. He recalled Marisol's light, evasive laugh when he once broached the topic of her travel expenses. Now, though, those moments felt like a carefully constructed alibi. How could she keep something like this hidden? He whispered into the silence, anger and betrayal pooling in his gut. The next morning, as rain streaked the windshield during his commute, the image of that wrecked truck haunted him. Arriving at the office, Dorian couldn't contain his inner turmoil. Picking up his phone with a shaking hand, he dialed Marisol. "Marisol, we need to talk," he said, his tone brittle with suppressed emotion. "I've been going over your trips. There's something off. Everything isn't adding up." A long pause ensued before her measured voice came through, edged with uncertainty. "Dorian, I don't know what you mean. Everything's been above board." "Above board?" he pressed, his voice rising. "Gideon just sent me a snapshot from the traffic cam. The truck with those blue stripes. Marisol, it's my car. How do you explain that?" There was silence on the line, punctuated only by the soft patter of rain. Then, in a voice too soft to console, she replied, "Maybe I can explain, but now isn't the time." The evasiveness in her tone struck him like a blow. Alone with his swirling doubts and mounting evidence, Dorian felt the cold grip of Vidorian, sat in the dim motel room, the bitter taste of cold coffee lingering on his tongue. The muted television flickered with images of his shattered life, headlines dissecting his vengeance and the trial that had captivated the public. But none of it mattered anymore. The emptiness in his chest weighed heavier than any verdict. A soft knock on the door jolted him from his thoughts. He hesitated before opening it, his pulse quickening. A manila envelope lay on the ground, no sign of who had left it. Dorian picked it up slowly and shut the door, locking it tight. He set the envelope on the desk, staring at it as if it might explode. Finally, he tore it open. Inside were photos, candid shots of Marisol in places Dorian didn't recognize. Airports, hotel lobbies, shadowy figures beside her. And one last picture. A man standing just beyond her, his face obscured, watching. Beneath the photos was a single slip of paper with an address and a time, 11:45 p.m. Dorian's breath hitched. The rain outside intensified, drumming against the window as if echoing his heartbeat. The address led him to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Boston. The building loomed against the night sky, its broken windows like dark eyes. Dorian's grip tightened on the gun hidden in his coat. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of rusting metal. His footsteps echoed as he moved deeper into the shadows. A single light flickered overhead, illuminating a figure seated at a table. Dorian! The voice was familiar, distorted but unmistakable. The same voice from that night. "Who are you?" Dorian demanded, his voice rough with fear and rage. The figure chuckled, low and amused. Someone who knows the truth. Before Dorian could react, the lights cut out. In the darkness, a whisper brushed against his ear. "You've only seen the beginning. Ear and something darker take hold."